Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice Simple Steps for Showing Up. My name is Brad Draper. Man, it's going to be a good one today. Had a fantastic back and bicep workout. I haven't been able to lift as heavy as I would like because I got some procedures done. I got PRP in my right shoulder and elbow. What has it been? 10 weeks ago, probably. It was before Thanksgiving. And 2 weeks ago, I did peptides in my left shoulder and elbow, the Wolverine cocktail. So it's going to be kind of fun. We're going to cross compare which procedure did better because I have identical injuries in both shoulders. My supraspinatus, I think that's how you say it, on both sides have 3 millimeter tears. So same environment, same time, same everything. We're going to see what wins the race. And this brings me forward into the topic at hand, which I'm kind of doing these throwback topics because it's been a while. It's been a couple of years. In fact, it's been 2 years since these topics were specifically covered. And the one I really want to talk about is during this process of these procedures, my right shoulder specifically with PRP, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. I was actually in a sling for multiple days, no lifting of any kind greater than 5 pounds for 2 weeks. And then I graduated into resistance band movements, very specific movements for my rotator cuff for another week. And then I went to 10% capacity, 20% capacity, 30% capacity. I'm now to 50% capacity, which meant hypertrophy. A lot of reps, lower weight. As I build back these tendons that I put holes in, somehow, some way, somewhere, they're identical. So, I strive for balance in all things. But I never stopped. I still kept moving. I still kept working. Even though my work capacity went down, I still kept moving. I kept the momentum. I didn't ever quit. I know so many people that they have a procedure done, surgery, PRP, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, and the excuse of you can't work out. Well, you can. You just can't do the things you were doing. So you have to change up whatever it is that you're doing, at least for a short period of time. My total recovery time for this shoulder is 16 weeks. That's not that long in the scheme of things. Yes, it sucks to not be able to lift my maximum weight in any upper body movement for 16 weeks, but that's okay. It's for a greater good. This is the idea of stepping back a step to step forward 2 steps. I have not been able to build my shoulders in the better part of a decade, and now we know why. But this idea of momentum, this idea of Big Mo, which I talked about in the previous episode, we have this concept that we catch momentum as if it's something that's moving like a moving train that we must sprint and get onto, or this mythical unicorn that we've got to go catch. Some people get it, some people never see it. But the reality is the snowball effect. The snowball starts to roll down the hill. It starts out very, very small. And as it goes down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until this thing is an unstoppable force. A locomotive starts out very, very, very slow. And then as it builds momentum, it becomes something very, very, very difficult to stop. And impossible to stop in an instant. It'll plow through everything. But here's the reality. Somebody made the snowball. Somebody started the locomotive engine and started pouring coal or diesel or electricity into the engine or motor to allow it to start pumping, to start turning the wheels, to build the torque. Even if the engine's rolling and the wheels aren't turning, the torque is still building. If you've ever been on a mountain bike, climbing a mountain, you've had this firsthand where you're pushing with everything you have. and you're not moving very fast. Pulling up a deadlift bar, you put so much energy into the bar and it's not moving. If you keep putting energy into the bar, all of a sudden the bar starts to move. And not only does it start to move, it starts to move with some serious speed. At first, it's slow, but towards the top, it's moving quickly. You can actually see this on world record deadlift attempts and world record deadlifts, where the bar doesn't move, then all of a sudden it starts to move and gains velocity as it gets higher. It gains momentum. You create momentum. That is what I'm getting at. You make it. It is not a mythical creature that you catch. It is something you made. And you make this by making and keeping promises to yourself. You make this by moving the needle a little bit each day. That little bit becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. I was recently asked how I can make such covenants or commitments with myself, like walking from sundown to sunrise and going 35 miles and just doing it. This topic was brought up the other day, and they said, of course, naturally you can do it because you trained for it. And then I reminded them, or actually told them, I did not train for it. This is something I spontaneously did. I trained for it, quote unquote, because I go to the gym. I'm a healthy person, and I have a healthy lifestyle. I walk on a treadmill 3 days a week for 30 to 40 minutes. That's it. That is nothing compared. That's not a training session for 15 hours. There was no training there. In fact, I just went and did it. And that floored them. They were awestruck. They had no words because they thought for certainty that I had trained for this, so naturally I could accomplish it. Because in their brain, the only way to accomplish a great feat or a large feat is if you train for it. But what if your life is training? What if the way you live is training? You're training the mind. Body, yes, but mind even more so. When the body wants to give out, you're only halfway there, 40% of the way there, something like that. Your body can go so much farther than it thinks it can. So as I'm walking these 35 miles, it happened. When I climb mountains on my mountain bike, it happens. Whenever I do something very, very difficult, my body starts to complain. My left calf starts to ache until I tell it to shut up. Then my right knee randomly starts to ache. My lower back, my right hip, my pinky. It's the most random, disorganized bunch of chaos. And it's simply my body complaining, saying, this hurts, I want you to stop. I acknowledge the pain, recognize there's nothing there that's causing it outside of complaining, and then it gives up and then goes to something different. It's really funny to watch. It's just my body complaining. But that's where the mind comes in. You feel this pain, and most people stop when the pain hits. It's just the body complaining. In life, most people stop when the pain hits. They stop their momentum when the pain hits. It's literally just your mind complaining. It's the world challenging you. Over this weekend, in fact, actually the last almost 2 weeks, tomorrow will be 2 weeks, we started another side project, something to generate some cash flow while we're building our company. And the day that was supposed to start, the whole system crashed. 2 days later, they got that system fixed, but the system we were using crashed. 2-3 days later, they got all of it fixed, but the software we were using crashed. And so we pivoted, and last night we pivoted for the 4th time. And will it work? We'll find out. I sure hope so. But if it doesn't, will we pivot again? Absolutely. We will keep taking steps, moving that needle slowly but surely. At first, like you listened to my last podcast episode, sometimes that needle starts with, what do you do when the alarm goes off? Do you get out of bed? And then that progresses to, I'm going to walk all night 35 miles. And what I'm going to do this next year will blow your mind with my Misogi. It's going to be awesome. I'm writing a book this year. I'm working on presentations. I'm speaking at Utah Tech Week in just a couple of weeks. We're doing these things to move the needle, but that movement progresses as you become bigger, as the momentum gets larger, as that snowball gets bigger, you can accomplish more with the same amount of energy, maybe even less. It takes a great deal of energy to make the snowball and get it moving. If you've ever attempted this, which I have, you make the snowball fairly easy. You put it on the ground and you start rolling it. It's kind of a back-breaking task unless you're on a really big hill. When I did it, I was not on a really big hill. And the ball does not want to roll at first. You have to manually roll it until it builds enough mass that it rolls on its own. Most of the effort is done in the front load, very little in the back load. That's why you see people of great significance, great wealth, whatever it might be, and they seem to be doing this effortlessly. They have a lot of systems in place, a lot of habits and routines in place to make sure that happens. They have huge teams. They don't do this alone. And they put a lot of front-loaded effort to build this momentum. The momentum they initially made, and then they continue doing by going day in, day out, pushing the snowball. It's something you make. Stop thinking that it's some mythical creature that you catch. Stop thinking it's a train that you must jump on, when in fact, it's the train that you started from nothing. And it's so easy to lose momentum. You must be on it all day. Now, just like riding a bike, we've all learned to ride a bike, I would assume. To some degree, I love riding bikes. And the bike only moves when you pedal. However, you can coast for a little bit. And if you're on a hill, you can really coast. But at some point, the coasting will stop and the bike will stop and you will fall over. Unless you keep pedaling. The bike only moves when you pedal. One pedal stroke at a time. Sometimes that is very difficult and you do not move fast. I recall a time being in a windstorm in the teens outside. I had hypothermia and I was some 30 miles from home. A ride that should have taken me 2 hours, I was gone over 5. It was sleeting ice rain outside. And every pedal stroke in first gear, by the way, which is a very low gear. One pedal stroke at a time only got me that far, and then the momentum stopped. Sometimes that's life, and sometimes you're just top gear cruising along. And how cool that is. But you have to keep pedaling. You have to keep working. And as you do this day in and day out, you build something magnificent. I know you can do it. And it really is simply showing up and doing tasks today that get you closer to where you want to be. It doesn't really matter what that task or goal is. It just matters that you feel it is working towards what you want to accomplish. Similar to me doing these podcasts, this is episode 106, I believe. It started out to influence and affect you. And now I have done that to many people over the years. I have landed TEDx stages, Utah Tech Week stages, all these different stages because of this podcast. And it all started with a thought. I want my voice to be heard. How can I make it heard? And then that thought led to an action. I researched what to buy. I ultimately hired a coach to just teach me because money moves faster than time. And that action led to the opportunities of teaching you, being on stages and teaching you or people like you. And so many more things will catapult. My book, part of the data and resource for that book is this podcast. It's my journaling. I have 2005 unconsecutive, unbroken days that I know of. I actually have more that I'm currently reading old past handwritten and putting them into an algorithm. That's data. That's 10, 15 minutes a day over approximately 2,100 days. You build the momentum from nothing. You start it. You can break it. What takes years to build, you can kill in an instant if you stop pedaling. So keep pedaling, keep working, keep getting after it. I know you can. That's what I got for you. Share this message with your friends and your family. Leave me a review. Leave me a message on social, Mr. Brad Draper. Until next week, like this thing, subscribe to it, to download it for future listenings. I love you guys. Bye.